You ought to know that you're listening to a podcast about Alanis Morissette. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Cory.
And this week we will be discussing Alanis Morissette's iconic 1995 album, Jagged Little Pill. One I'm sure you've all heard of. One of the biggest albums we've covered on this show for sure. A lot of albums. This is definitely one of the highest selling and with some of the biggest hits, that's for sure.
From a young artist, and it was her first international. Like, this was the one for her.
Yes, it was. She was 21 when this was released. Started
wow,
insane to think about, but she actually did take over the world, it sounds like, with this. So that is so crazy to think about. But for a bit of background, I think a lot of people probably know about this background at this point because it's not what people expected after hearing this if they hadn't known. But before this, Alanis Morissette, she's from Canada, and she had an entertainment career there. She was on a show called You Can't Do That on Television, and she, in the early 90s, released 2 teen pop albums. I know the single on one of them was called Too Hot, and this did come to surprise people after she became internationally known for these songs. But the thing was, long story short, these songs that she was doing, this kind of teeny bopper stuff, it wasn't really her. It wasn't really what she wanted to say. And she wanted to write more personal singer-songwriter type songs. And so she met with a guy named Glenn Ballard, who at that point, 1993, was best known for writing Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror and for producing the group Wilson Phillips. So another guy with pretty pop background, a higher esteem maybe, but still a very pop background. But they connected right away and began writing songs together. And really, Alanis Morissette was just a young woman who just wanted to let the world know what she felt, and that was what she was going to do.
Yeah, make it down from Canada to LA, literally start writing her own music and getting at it. Speaking, really putting her feelings on the page and people actually putting it on a record. Even though, as crazy as it sounds now, they shopped that around for a hot minute.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about now, but it just wasn't the first thing that people were expecting. I think particularly from a woman, because by this point, like, the grunge era was well underway, but that was a very male-dominated movement. And this was something a bit different. And there were some early 90s female artists that had like some indie acclaim, like a Liz Phair or PJ Harvey. But those artists hadn't really broken through to the mainstream in the way that Alanis Morissette would, but she did have the backing of a major label. She signed to Maverick Records, which was a subsidiary of Warner Brothers founded by none other than Madonna. So
I did not know that part. I knew it was Maverick, but I didn't know the Madonna part.
Yep, Madonna founded Maverick Records. It doesn't exist anymore, but she did. And this, I think, might have been her first artist signed to it.
That makes way more sense now.
Yeah. So, yeah, she had the backing of probably at that point the most well-known woman in music overall by that point. Mid-90s, everybody knew who Madonna was. She'd already broken all the records. So to have that backing was that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, for sure, to have Madonna co-signing for you, and definitely made her more likely to get a big chance taken on her.
I mean, that, and for me, even speaking from inside the time, she had and has a unique sound. Without a unique sound back then, you were just another grunge sound at this point, especially if you're not getting big time record labels behind you. But her sound was so unique that I think that really had a lot of the gusto for her, of the reason that she got this up and on the records, up and in the record stores. And it was wild to see, you instantly wanted to listen to it, or I speak for me, I instantly wanted to listen to it because it was something fresh and new, but it also like fit. She always fit, you know, she didn't stand out like a sore thumb in a bad way. She just had a unique sound and fit the really the whole music back then, you know? It was a neat thing.
Yeah, and it's very interesting to consider because obviously where she started in 1991 with teen pop,
Yeah.
it was definitely it was in many ways very far from what she was going to do, but in many ways it can be said that pop background actually helped her be the one to cross
Agreed.
through to the mainstream with this sound because she definitely still had alt rock cred.
Yeah.
That was made very clear from the get-go. But that pop background, I think, really, in some songs more than others, really comes through and was allowed her to have a mass appeal and really just helped the album take off. And there were super high expectations for it immediately. After all, this was a new artist. She was not going to be hyped up to be the next big thing, even with the cosign from Madonna. Like, they weren't going out of their way to say, this girl is going to be a huge deal. There wasn't a hype train like preceding it, it seems. Like, it was expected that it would hopefully sell well enough so that she could do a follow-up album.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Her pop sensibilities shine through here. And I didn't even put that into it. But now knowing that it's just her and Ballard for the most part, with a few exceptions that we'll talk through or talk about throughout the album, wrote and got these songs done. So yeah, I guess it's a neat thing because there is a true pop sensibility in her music. So, oh man, I'll take the booze on this one because I was full on machining her without talent in Canada in my brain, you know, just like, oh, she's a dime a dozen pop star. But that's a really good point.
Yeah, in a weird way, it did help her actually get that huge crossover success. It's and actually that did well, first off, so this album really broke through because the lead single got played on KROQ FM in LA, which was a major rock station that did play a big hand in what got big. And that lead single, which we'll talk more about when we get to it, got so many people's attention that they just wanted to know more, and it was off from there. But one thing that I've read was with great popularity, of course, there are going to be detractors. That happens with any artist who gets this big and sells this many copies of an album. There were some who felt, well, no, she's too pop. She's like sanitized Liz Phair or PJ Harvey.
You know what? I'll speak for me on this one. I never felt like that because I wouldn't have dug it, you know? I didn't feel like she was a sanitized PJ Harvey. That's crazy, you know, or Lilith. That's wild. That's wild to think about. But I never thought of her like that. I
Yeah.
don't think she's a watered down anything. She is just such a unique artist. Again, I go back to that. That's why she made it, everybody's ears perk up.
Yeah. There might have been some that sounded more aggressive, but she still was in control. I don't think there's any denying that here with
Yeah,
this
and
album.
we'll see it throughout the album. And there's an adoption of different 90s genres that maybe people were saying, oh, this pop girl's coming out, you know, and just taking these cookie cutter ways. But we'll get into it more. I think a lot of those instances in this record are immediately sounding cookie cutter, but if you really get down, some of these compositions have a great genius inside of them as far as putting a new name into the sound that was going on back then.
I completely agree with that. But and so did many others. So yeah, this album at this point it sold over 33 million copies worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the highest selling album of the entire decade of the 1990s, actually, worldwide. So,
Wow.
and I mean, I think its influence has only, it's still very present, and this album's never gone away. The songs have remained popular throughout the years, and it certainly influenced plenty of artists after. I mean, certainly some of the big pop music from when I was a kid, like the singers like especially Avril Lavigne
Oh
or
yeah,
Michelle Branch, or even earlier Pink songs, not so much her stuff now, but when
heard.
she was doing like Just Like a Pill or whatever, there was a lot of Alanis in that, I think.
Yeah, she was. Well, and we'll definitely get into it more, but she was one of the more powerful voices as far as what she was saying, and she was getting radio time.
Yes, she most certainly was. And I mean, its legacy just keeps going because one interesting thing everybody may not know is that end of 2019, about Jagged Little Pill became a musical. And yeah, there's been a lot of musicals out there based on the work of popular music artists. And but I was fortunate enough to see this on its tour when it came here to Baltimore, and I have to say I don't think it was a perfect musical, but I have to say it really did say a lot about the brilliance of these songs, that we could create a whole story out of the songs on this album and make
Yeah,
it work. And not just a straight biopic musical. Because the ones that you see, there are quite a few biopic musicals. The most famous is probably Jersey Boys, but that's a straight story. Or in some cases, the plot's pretty nonsensical and lightweight, like Mamma Mia, because
heard.
what she doesn't know who are like, that's just very lightweight, but it works for ABBA songs. But this is actually a much more realistic tale. It's about like a small town and how a rape at a party changes this small town and the repercussions for everybody.
And the main protagonist or the main girl is Mary Jane. Am I
Yes.
correct? Yeah, which plays into this album. I thought that was genius. I also that 2018 was when it started to hit the road, correct? The musical.
I feel like it might have been in like London or not. I mean, I know it got postponed, the national tour,
I heard.
a bit
I
because
was
of
just saying,
COVID.
it running this long is great.
Yeah,
It
no,
says
it
something
is.
to it.
Yeah, it is still it seems to have been quite a success, and people are have responded well to it. And I'm glad to see. I don't think the show's quite as gritty as it thinks it is,
Heard.
but that's really my only complaint. And some you could argue it's a bit preachy, possibly, but overall, I enjoyed it overall, but I think it says a lot about the songs on this album that we can make it a musical and create a somewhat realistic story out of it.
Hot tea take, even with a little bit of preachiness, I think that embodies what Alanis was doing on this album.
Oh, it does, yeah.
You know, that's wild to think. Maybe it's overly preachy on purpose sometimes.
Oh,
I
I'm
would hope
sure.
so.
I mean, it very well may be, and but she was very heavily involved with it. She even composed a couple of new songs for it.
That sounds.
So, yeah, her fingerprints are definitely on it. She's still saying what she wants to say. And as we know, she'll be playing at that Oceans Calling Festival. And she's the artist I know I'm most looking forward to seeing, actually. Really wanted to see her last year. Glad she's coming back. Because, yeah, this is just an iconic album, and I can't wait to hear these songs live and experience it with so many people. I think it's going to
Yeah,
be incredible. So,
yeah. I have I'm almost positive I saw her back in the day in a festival type setting, like an HF festival. But it's very vague. So I'm
yeah,
excited. I'm excited to see that.
yeah. At least you didn't go to Woodstock 99 because she did play there.
Yeah, no. I wanted to be there, but in hindsight,
I
thank God.
think it worked out okay that you didn't go.
Yeah.
Because, oh, but hey, they're both subjects of HBO documentaries, Alanis Morissette and Woodstock 99.
There you go. There
Yeah,
you go.
actually, hot tea take, not everybody may know this. The Woodstock 99 documentary on HBO is much better than the one on Netflix.
Yeah, I forgot about that Netflix one.
No, it was there was so much left out, I felt like, and just important points were made in the HBO one and in a more succinct package. So that is
You know,
my hot tea take on that. I just wanted to say it, but it's kind of relevant because she was there at Woodstock 99, one of three female artists at this festival.
She was a kick-ass girl, man. She was a
Yep,
kick-ass girl then.
she was. Most certainly. But in the meantime, so you can stay up to date, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Turntables and Tea Podcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Turntables Tea. Also, subscribe and rate us if you're listening, and give us give us a really nice review, please. That would be most appreciated, especially as we dive into our Ocean's Calling journey over the next month. And with that being said, we're gonna, I think, get into our track by track of it all.
Let's get at it.
All right, so the album starts off with All I Really Want. And yeah, I'm just gonna say this is an iconic opener. It so sets it just to hear her say first line, "Do I stress you out?" Like we immediately the first time I'm like, okay, this is something like different. Like we're just gonna be like she's gonna really be putting it all out there. Like my sweater's on backwards, and it's like I'm crazy, but I still want love, basically, is kind of the whole thing of this song. But this expressiveness is, I think, just quite, I think the directness of it is a bit startling, but also very refreshing. But again, that different sound, so much of this different sound, I think, has to do with her voice. Because she has a very expressive voice, I guess you could say. And she really sells what she's saying, but really we've got different stuff here. We get those fuzzy guitars you might expect at this point in 90s rock, but we also get some blues harmonica in there. So it's a very cool song. I think it's a great song. It was the sixth single, really didn't chart that well, but I think that was because by that point everybody knew the song.
Yeah, I mean, statement piece is an understatement. This is a full-on out the gate, just like her. This is what you get. I'm fed up with fake back and forth, especially in the dating scene or in the love scene period. This is wild because never back then did I take it like this, but listening to it now, it's almost like a super powerful speed date she's on, where she's just going at it. Even the bridge at 2:35 is this really cool dating back and forth where it's just question after question. She even stops the whole entire track here to be like, why aren't you comfortable with silence? It's a really wild statement piece here, and I love it. Definitely a super awesome way to start the album. I think I'm with you. You know, it never really charted. It's not one that the people that just know the hits will call out, but it's a super iconic and super awesome opener.
Yeah, it definitely didn't get as much rotation even beyond this album's initial cycle.
Yep.
Because I'd never hear this on the radio, but the other singles, yeah, I've heard them plenty of times, even throughout the years. But yeah, especially the next song. I think that's the perfect time to get to our next song. So the second song is You Oughta Know. So this is one of those songs. It seems a lot of people remember their first reactions when they heard it. So I'm just curious, what was the vibe of this like when this came out? What was the consensus on it? Like, what was it like? Because I wasn't there.
It's a, as I feel like all the songs back then that really were giant hits were polarizing because it was, you know, you would take sides. This one sort of blurred the lines, but there was also, we talk about Alanis and the way she was, you know, outspoken, but there was this brashness that a lot of people were like, I don't know if I dig that, you know, like she's almost too loud for a young lady in her sense. And this song was the one everybody heard, so it was really out there, like in their face, and people were back and forth of whether they stood behind it or not. I always jammed on it. I think it was off air when I was talking to you about this one, but I mean, there's parts of this song that I still yell out loud just because it's such a cool song. It's done so well. I never even knew back in the day that Flea and Navarro
Yeah.
were in on this, you know. So that was an added layer that I loved. And I'll talk more about that when we go back at the musicality of it. But as far as back then, it was cool, man. It was super cool. I always dug this song.
Yeah, this one, I mean, you're right. It's hard not to yell these lines. There's so many great lines in this song. It's one after another. But I mean, I'm thinking if you click the stream on this podcast, you've heard this song by this point. You know what they are. But the big thing a lot of people seem to still remember, like my mother will even say, like, it was just so explicit to hear. And
It's that one line that it sticks, and no one, because it's a wild thing, period, for
yeah.
you to hear a lady to say to an ex-lover. Maybe not so much now. Okay, maybe we as a society are a little bit we've seen it all, you know.
Yeah.
We're used to seeing it, but back, I mean, you know, I curse on here all the time. What am I even thinking about?
Yeah.
It says when you fuck her and she goes off
It's-
on it, and you're like, holy shit, she
and
came out of nowhere. And
yeah.
that's the one everybody, you know, remembers.
Oh,
But it
there's
was part
also
of
the
this
line
beautiful.
about, I love this one. Would she go down on you
Oh, yeah,
in a theta?
that's real. That is real. I mean,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I
she
mean,
was in your face here.
it is very real. Like all of this, like it's pretty. She's like, but I like that she's willing to admit, like she's a bit of a freak. Like, is she perverted like me?
Oh yeah, I mean, she even says later on, like, when I scratch another back, do you feel it? Like I mean, she lets you know this is raw. This is a super cool look inside of a singer songwriter in like the most crazy brash way right in front of our
Yeah,
face. It had to be such, I imagine it would have to be such a cathartic release, especially if it was super anecdotal, like just a straight stupid release of emotion. And that's it, that's what the song is, and that's why it's so powerful. And for me, even in my opinion, I think that that's why it sticks on everybody, because you can yell during this song. Like you can be angry at something out there during this song. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be a lost love. In most cases, it probably is, but it's a song that lets me release. I don't know. It lets me get
yeah.
the yelling out.
We'll all be releasing at this festival. That's what she
I,
says.
I am pumped to hear her play this. I
Yeah,
mean,
I heard it's quite an experience, especially with the ladies. When you hear all the ladies sing it, I heard it's something.
how great would it be if Flea came out and did the bass line?
Oh,
You know,
so great.
but speaking of that bass line, there is a composition behind this awesome singer songwriter, you know, scream fest that speaks and drives right along her, and I love it. It matches so super well the intricacies in the way Flea takes this bass line from the start of the song to the end. Totally match the power of the lines. It's amazing. It's a really really awesomely done song. Period. And it's a again a cathartic release is all I
Yes.
can keep saying.
But now I think it's time for the tea as what is this cathartic release? Because of course hearing a song like this, people definitely wanted to know who pissed her off so much that who could she be singing about? And usually I think a lot of that stuff takes away from it, but it's impossible not to think that with this song. I mean, come on. And so she's never actually technically revealed who the song is about, but somebody who she dated, a sitcom actor named Dave Coulier, best known for his role as Uncle Joey on Full House. Wait, you didn't know this?
No, what? This song's about cut it out. Are we talking
Yup.
about?
That he actually said the song was about him, and Alanis, she said in the Jagged documentary that she actually announced, but she said it's interesting that you would tell people this song is about you.
That's pretty wild.
And
Wow. Yeah, I never knew that they were together. The only person I ever remember together with is Ryan Reynolds.
yeah,
Um,
it's
but
not about Ryan Reynolds. That was
oh yeah, it
after
was
this.
way after. But
But
yeah, wow, that's a wild duo. I would have never
yeah, no,
closed my
that
mind.
no, everybody, most people I thought knew that at this point that it's probably about Uncle Joey.
I take it. I'm omitting that from my memory.
Yeah,
It's
I
out of
mean,
here.
you know, Full House actually went off the air in 1995, and then this album came out like 2 months later.
Holy shimoa.
So R.I.P. Dave Coulier's career after that, because
Heard that.
though another rumor I heard of it being about was Matt LeBlanc, and honestly, that would be well, I could see somebody thinking this about Joey Tribbiani after he never called all those ladies back.
That's wild.
But
That's so crazy to think that this is about somebody.
I
You
know,
know?
yeah,
Uh, but it could be about anybody. That's why I love this about this one.
yes, we interpret the songs how we want.
Heard.
Yes, that is how we do it. And yeah, this was the first single, massive hit. You all know it.
Yeah.
If you don't, you ought to know it. But
That's for real.
but you know, these first two songs were pretty intense. So I think that we're gonna take it down a few notches actually with our next song, which is Perfect. A much more mellow song than the previous two. Kind of about the pressures of growing up, and she's kind of singing this as somebody giving advice, which is something that we'll hear again on this album. And it's interesting to hear it coming from somebody who's like college age singing these songs, but
Yeah.
she's just talking about the societal pressures on teenagers. And well, I think this is a really resonant song because it's pretty hard not to at some point when you're a teen, just being in school, it's impossible not to feel under pressure and like you gotta be doing it perfectly, regardless of other factors, because it's
Oh yeah,
so
most
much.
definitely.
So I've always resonated with this song, and I imagine a lot of people have since then, because of it. And it wasn't a single, it wasn't like the big hit first song people think of here, but I've always really enjoyed it. I think it just does what it needs to do in its more low-key way. And I also wanted to say this is one of the songs that I really loved what they did with it in the musical, because actually the male lead sang it, and I thought that was a cool change.
Yeah, this song has taken on a whole nother level for me on this listen through to this album critically, as a parent of two young children, as I learn as a parent, and to think it was sung, like you said, by a college aged young woman, and to wonder whether it was anecdotal, because there are a few, or at least one more place on this album where we'll talk about her strict upbringing, and this is a very strict and loving to a fault of the parent kind of way here. There are very easy pitfalls inside of this, when you are learning how to parent a child, that she really explores. And it's wild to think that it was written by someone who wasn't a parent, is really where I'm getting.
Yeah.
And almost thinking if it was to her parents. Such a powerful piece, such a powerful piece. The final line, "We'll love you just the way you are if you're perfect," really sums up the whole entire piece. It's a very powerful piece. I definitely dig it, and it's a perfect slow down piece, like you said here. Exactly what this album needed, right on the third track.
Yeah, because that was quite a 1-2 punch. We did need something a bit more mellow, I guess you could say, at least musically. But it
Musically, yeah,
definitely hits hard. But you know, it doesn't all have to be completely doom and gloom. We are going to be a bit more optimistic with our next song, Hand in My Pocket. This is another really fun one, I think. So it uses a poetic technique called rhyme juxtaposition, um, which is pretty cool, I think. And it's just one of those songs about how we're all so contradictory, basically. It's like, yeah, I'm brave, but I'm chicken shit. I'm poor, but I'm happy. Like all of this. It's all contradictory, but you know what? She just has to tell you everything's gonna be fine, fine, fine. Because she's got one hand in her pocket and that other hand's always doing something else. My personal favorite is playing a piano.
Yeah,
I didn't do it right,
that's
but
a
that's
good
my
one.
favorite part. I love
Yeah,
them all though. It's such a fun song just vocally. Just listening to her sing it, I think makes the song so much better than it already is. But even outside of that, I do like the message of this because I think it's like it is optimistic, but it's also realistic. It's not sugar coated in any way. It's like, yeah, it's tough, but everything's gonna be fine if you just keep going out and giving a peace sign or a high five or whatever. You just gotta do it that way. And yeah, I've just always, and I think it's a very melodically pleasing song too. And I love the harmonica. And yeah, I've never gotten sick of this one. I love it.
yeah. This is a very, very super authentic piece, and I really believe that's why it resonates forever. The way it's the just the way it is. To speak to earlier on when you were talking about just the way she sets up the poetry here, and the rhyme juxtaposition is a test. It's really a testament to her as a singer songwriter. Earlier on, we were talking about the way she delivers her singing, delivers these vocals as far as the rhythm and how unique it is, and then she's here showing us how she can really perfect the prose, for lack of better words. And it's really well done. Now, another really authentic thing that I love about this song as well is we get to hear her doing the harmonica, and it's something that she loves. So you get this authenticity here again. And the third, maybe it's just me, maybe, but this one always was a cool anthem almost. And this one I didn't plan on it relating to, but this one is the other side of a college, a college aged person singing, because for me, part of the coolness of our generation was to have your hands in your pockets, and we would go out of our way to have our hands in our pockets. It was a cool statement, and this one always resonated as it's like it's cool, or you're going to be able to get stuff done while you're being cool and having your hand in your pocket. This one is for the the hands in your pocket generation. For me, it always has been. I love this song. I really, I can't think of a better word than authentic. It's her on this album.
Most definitely. And fun fact, so this was the second single, and it wasn't as big as You Oughta Know, but still very popular. But uh, this was obviously part of having the single meant you got played on MTV. And the video for the first single, You Oughta Know, was very heavily filtered. And so she could still go places without being recognized. That changed after the video for Hand in My Pocket. It was in black and white, but after that, people recognized her on the street and the privacy was gone. All because
Yeah.
of this video.
I remember that video. That
Yeah.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah. It was a cool piece for sure. But they may have been able to see her, but could they see right through her? Like she sees right through you?
Yeah.
Track number 5. Yeah, we're kind of back to the angry breakup songs here. This is definitely, it's not as explicit as You Oughta Know, but well, it's not too far off either. I mean, Wine Dine 69 me. That's the iconic line of this one that got all the attention. But yeah, I just love the overall confidence of the song. Like she's just so like, yeah, I see right through you and I'm gonna be big now that I'm a zillionaire. It's um yeah, it's definitely one of the best non-singles here. It definitely could have been one. And again, I just love her vocals. I think she's having a great time doing it, but we also still get that anger there, even if it is a bit more playful than You Oughta Know was.
Yeah, playful, a tongue-in-cheek playfulness here.
Yes.
You got. I love how it could be a single with this powerful rock jam behind it, but I mean, this is a layered song. There's a lot here, and I was reading that she was writing this about her experiences in the industry as a young woman, and it was these producers or whoever taking her out, but it's really just a paycheck. They're looking after she's a zillionaire to see if they're in the credits type of thing. So that playfulness comes from her playing the role of being like ha 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 throughout this whole entire thing, because at the end she's like, here I am with my army and the ammunition and I'm this thing. And I really like that, because if this was a screamer like You Oughta Know, I feel like this one wouldn't have hit the way it hits here. She plays the part where you're listening and you're like, oh, this is a cool rock song, but really she's like, yeah, you're seeing right through me, but I'm seeing right through you, in the sense of this is a powerful call out to the bull crap that I've seen.
Yeah, and I mean, she'd already just in just a few short years, she'd already experienced quite a bit from the powerful men in the industry. So it was definitely important of her to write this song, and it well wasn't the first time she called them out, but
Heard.
it was. I mean, it wasn't the last time she called
Yeah.
them out. I meant to. That was what I meant to say. Wasn't the last time she called them out, but gotta start somewhere, and this is a great way to do it, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, but yeah, so we mentioned her upbringing earlier, and well, that's what the next song is about. Track number 6, which is Forgiven. This one specifically tackles the fact that Alanis Morissette was raised as a Catholic, and in her words, it's kind of in general about the purity culture. A lot of it's like basically, if you're a virgin, you're a prude, but if you've had sex, then you're a slut. And it's just that culture that, in her experience, it sounds like the church put on to young women, and she's really writing about it. It's kind of interesting to have the song taken on the church right after the song where she talks about getting 69, but that's the kind of album this is. I think this is a very real song, and she's taking on a really hefty topic of Catholicism and like, what does that mean for the world? A lot of people have a lot of different opinions on it, but I think it's really powerful that she uses her own personal narrative to also make a social commentary, which is what I think she does really well with this song. And this one actually really elevated for me a lot after seeing the musical. It was, of course, during the scene where Mary Jane goes to church for the first time in a long time. So, of course, she sings Forgiven because, well, it makes perfect sense to. But that really elevated the song. This one in particular was the one I think I left the show really liking a lot more and appreciating more on the album, just because it could be used in that context. But it's a really powerful tune, regardless of how you feel about Catholicism.
Yeah, the purity part of it is the part of this Catholicism, or really just of upbringing. I'll say at the time, and I'll use my own opinion on that one. You saw that a lot. You saw this shaming once it happened, but if the virginity was there, like you said, it was, oh, you're not cool, you're a prude, yada yada. that was inside of her personal. And that's so, I'm so happy you said that, because this is exactly where I was too. This commentary hits so much harder and becomes valid because it comes from a personal place. And she does such a great job in this one to have it not an over preachy piece about a strict Catholic upbringing, but more so a really personal piece. I love the line in there where she says, "My brothers didn't go blind from doing what they did," and that's the old wives' tale of you'll go blind if you play with yourself too much, for for lack of better words. But she really tackles it in a personal way, and it's done well. If I have to nitpick this one, it's the at 3:15 she goes falsetto, and it's really handled wrong in the mixing of it, in the production of it. I feel like it's it's only the one hit, and it's just it's not mixed well. She makes it out of it without, if you're not critically listening, she makes it out of it without falling on her face, but it could have easily been touched up and put away. It doesn't add to like a raw feel or anything. I just feel like it was poorly produced, poorly mixed. But that's my nitpick. This is a really awesome song.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you're right. It's so important that through this personal narrative and not too preachy, because I think she realizes everyone's experience is different.
Yeah.
Whether you grew up in a Catholic church or any other type of church or religion, everyone's experience with it is different. And I think she recognizes that. So, very cool song. Nothing to be forgiven for, in my opinion, on this one, because it's a great song. But now we are on to our famous track number 7, and this one's one of the iconic big hits off the album. You Learn. I think this is a song about the value of learning the hard way. That's really what it is. She recommends that you bite off more than you can chew, put your foot in your mouth, do it the hard way, because you live, you learn. And yeah, this is also the song that the album's title comes from. There is no song called Jagged Little Pill, but it's a line in this song. And it's probably the most optimistic song here. But again, this is another one where I'm just blown away that someone college age wrote this. Because I think this one got some flack for the songwriting of it, I feel like, but I don't agree. I do think it's sincere in the advice that she's passing on. Like, it does sound wise in its own way. And is it the most wise she'll be? No, but for at this point in her life, I feel like it's very real. And sometimes when you're 21, you do think you know everything. So maybe you are in a place to be saying you live, you learn.
I read that this was coming off of her being held up at gunpoint in an alley, and that it had torn her apart so bad that she was having daily panic attacks. And even throughout counseling, she was having a real tough time with it. And that's where this was coming from, as far as having to get out there and having to put her emotions out. This is her way of learning. It was a very hard process. And and that was just me looking into it as far as critically listening to it. This one has always hit for me. The personability of it, period, screams through all the way from this earwig of a chorus. It's one of those songs, in my opinion, that you're singing along and you don't even know the words, because this composition stands so high. It's almost perfectly written as far as a composition. The musicality of the song goes. It's really, really well done. But it's so powerful to hear her going through this. There's no way to deny the powerfulness of this. I think sort of shame on anybody who is like, oh, she's too young to have lived and learned. That's a very, very tough statement to put on. A
Yes.
very, very tough judgment to pass there,
Yes.
people. But yeah, I love this
Right.
one. And it's my track 7, my favorite spot on most albums. So she did an awesome job here on the old 7.
Yes, and I'm glad you pointed out the earwig of a chorus because
Oh
it's
yeah.
definitely there. This is definitely one of the poppier songs here.
I feel like this is one of those songs you lay down, you're like, "Whoo, killed it!" Like, wow, we really killed it right there.
Yeah,
It, I would have to think you would know. You instantly have a timeless piece on your hands.
yeah, they did. This was, of course, a single, fourth single, but yeah, it was a top 10 hit, number 6 on the Hot 100. Not surprising.
No, even as a fourth single, this still lives on like your easy listening. This lives. It can live any
Yeah.
on any station, pretty much, is what I'm
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is what I've heard a bunch through the years on the radio, and it just fits in very well with all of it. But speaking of easy listening, I'm glad you mentioned that because if any song is going to go into that format on this album, it is the next one, which is Head Over Feet. Yep, folks, we have a love song on this album, believe it or not. On one side of the coin, we have You Oughta Know. On another side, we have Head Over Feet. And well, I think this is such a beautiful song. First of all, because obviously she's made it very clear to us that with whatever her ex she's singing about, she was not happy with them. I mean, she's hopes she's still thinking of them, but I feel like she's almost singing this to herself about the love that she really hopes to have, which is to fall in love with your best friend. Based on what I heard earlier in the album, that's how I take it. But either way, I mean, this one, it's really well constructed for me. It's very smooth and pleasant to listen to, in my opinion. And I think, again, the lyrics are really on point for it, and she sings it well, and it's not as expressive as some of the other ones, but it doesn't need to be because this is a slower piece, but it's a really beautiful love song for sure. Another huge radio hit, understandably. Just this one, it's hard for me to even talk about it other than to say it makes me fall head over feet every time. Just listen to it.
As demure and just very soft as it is, it still always resonated for me, like even back when I was like a high school dude, because I'm a hopeless romantic, and that plays a part, but there's just a beauty inside of this, the writing, the way that she lays this whole thing out. This is a very, very almost perfect example of just outright perfect love, love that you don't expect, but love that is perfect for you, love that treats you the way you didn't expect you were going to be treated, almost unconditionally. And this song isn't contrived, so it never has felt to me like this was like all right, put a love song on there. It just, I'll use the word authentic again. She does that so well. She's a very, very smart singer-songwriter, and she has really, in my opinion, worn her heart on her sleeve this whole entire album so far. So I already see her as I already see what she's putting down as super valid. So this one always has hit so awesomely as a love song. It's a beautiful fucking song. I'll say it, a curse word there. It's a
I
beautiful
mean, it
song, man.
is.
It always has been, it always will be. It is a good one. It's a good
Yeah,
one.
always will be a classic for sure. But we're going to actually keep it going with the mellowness a bit into our next song too, which is Mary Jane. This song is not about weed. Other songs called Mary Jane are about it, not this one. This is actually about she's actually asking, "What's the matter, Mary Jane?" So it in the song, it sounds like she's singing it to her friend who's like always happy on the outside, but is really struggling, even though she's the sweetest person. But I actually saw in an interview, Alanis Morissette actually said she thought of it as singing to herself as well, which is also valid. And I feel like the general theme of this is it's about women sticking together. That's really what she's going for with this. And I think it works on that level. The problem is, um, it is not as dynamic as the other songs here. And it's not a bad song. I don't feel the need to have to skip it. But after I've heard all these, frankly, classics, this one really pales in comparison. I mean, especially right after Head Over Feet, which is such a beautiful love song and softer piece. This one just doesn't grab out like that. And she can do the softer pieces. We heard it with that song, we heard it with Perfect. This one just doesn't reach that mark quite for me.
Yeah, I like the fact I looked and I didn't see that she was writing about herself, but I always felt like it was because for me, the weed reference aside, Mary Jane, like if I'm looking for a name and I don't know somebody's name and I'm telling a story, it'll be like Mary Jane in the last name. It's just a generic name. So I always thought that was a cool thing to do here is speak to Mary Jane because Mary Jane could be anybody. And
Yep.
it felt to me like it was her talking to herself. So that's cool. But that again, I'm right with you. That's where it ends for me. This composition is a super odd fitting composition. In my opinion, it almost feels like the composition itself, or just whoever's playing here, is trying to find the time all the way to a minute 7. It's not until the line "I hear you counting sheep again, Mary Jane" is really where, for me, the composition even starts to fit together, and it really never takes off. It's not dynamic. It isn't a skip, though. You're right. It's not a skip. I don't think I have a gun to the head on this. I might, but this one so far it's not even like it's not a filler. It's not that song, but it's not a great song. It's
No,
not a great song.
it's not low enough to be filler. I mean,
No.
on a weaker album, heck, on like a significantly weaker album, it could very possibly be a highlight, actually. Like, I bet you, like, nope, this might sound disrespectful. I'm not trying to disrespect it, but like, say if this were on Jules' album, it would be a highlight of the album. Or something like that, what I mean? But just not here is the problem, I think.
I feel.
And well, it also does come in between two massive hits. And the biggest of them all is our next one, track number 10, Ironic. The song that's not actually ironic. It's been pointed out many, many times over the years that what is presented here is not actual irony. It has been argued that it's situational irony, though. And
it is.
It totally is.
It is. Damn it. I hate this argument. And yes, it is situationally ironic. There's rain happening on the happiest day of your life. That's ironic because the happiest day of your life, you didn't think that there would be rain. You wouldn't want rain. So it's ironic. Yeah. Darn all those people.
Yes. And it is ironic to win the lottery and die the next day, too. I mean,
of course.
Come on.
But yes.
Or getting a plane crash.
But too many people have made jokes over the years. I'm not saying they're not funny, but like, golly gosh, they ran that into the ground until she finally flipped it around when she was with Andy Samberg, Lonely Island. She has fun with it later on, but I'm sorry. I didn't mean to blurt that out.
No, I have to say, actually, I really respect that she has such a sense of humor about the song because that just makes me like her more. It's very clear to me that she knows what the deal is, but she's going to turn it on its head. It's even referenced in the musical. This song is presented as a poem in an English class, and there's an argument about whether or not it's ironic. And one guy even says, who cares if it is? It's good. And that basically, I think that kind of sums it up because, guess what? It's a good song. It's a well-constructed, well-written pop song. And that's why it was a huge hit. That's a big part of it. That's just on that level. Does it hit you lyrically as hard as other songs here? No. But from that pure craftsmanship level, there's no denying ironic. And this is another one of those songs. It just fits with any format. It fits anywhere. And that's why it did as well as it did. It's kind of shocking to think it only peaked at number 4, though. It feels like it would have been number 1, because it's never gone away.
What single was this?
It was the third single.
Third. Okay. Heard that.
But the way the charts were done there was so odd, and it's not always reflective of how popular a song truly is. But
Oh man, yeah. This one, as iconic as it is, that's mind blowing. I'm sorry that took me for a loop there. It never made it to one. That's wild. I mean, it's perfectly set on this album because it could fit anywhere. We get it, but here we get after Mary Jane, we get an acoustic bit here, and it sets perfectly. As far as pacing on this album, I love her voice on this song. I love her voice, period. But here, I just have always really enjoyed her singing on this one. Um, it's a good one, man. It's a timeless beast, and this is another one where she shows. I don't care if people think it's ironic or not. I'm not talking in a super literal sense, but her mastery with the prose, her mastery with being able to construct an airtight song, an airtight piece. It's amazing. She doesn't stop. She doesn't stop through this whole album as far as really handling her poetry at top notch, you know?
yeah, most definitely. And this is another example of it. Say what you want about it. But at this point, I think it's kind of a moot point, though. I think we've all kind of accepted it. So, and she's owned it too. Gotta love that she did that.
Yes.
Mad respect, girl. Mad respect. But she is the poetry is going to continue, I guess, with our next song because after all, she is a writer. She's not the doctor, which is track number 11. Yeah, this one's more of a it's got some attitude to it. I feel like it's more sassy than angry, which I kind of like. I mean, I feel like this song, it definitely sounds like she's singing to an addict partner, is definitely what it sounds like. To me, it always has. It's like, I'm not your prescriber. I'm not the doctor. I'm not going to give you your booze or your pills or whatever. I've always taken this song as that. Um, I mean, I like the attitude of it. I think it's a cool piece. Is it the best on here? Not by a long shot. Not even. It's definitely in the bottom half of the album, but it's still a really solidly done song. I mean, I take it over Mary Jane too. I really yeah, I do enjoy this song quite a bit on its own, even if it's surrounded by a lot of better songs. It's still a pretty neat song, I think.
Yeah, this one's cool. I never took it as the addict, but I really like that thought there. I always just took it as the like not even codependent, you know, the partner, the ex, or whoever that you're like, look, man. She even says it like, I'm not trying to carry you in my womb for 9 months. Like, I'm not here to be your mother. I'm not here to be your doctor. So if that's what you want, you're I ain't the one, you know. I'm not the doctor. I'm gonna start using that line. I ain't the
Yeah.
doctor. But not, it's just a really cool song. I was surprised, I have to say, back then that it was another acoustic song right back to back with Ironic. And now with a critical ear on it, as the penultimate, it really struggles to find pacing here. It's a cool song. I dig the song. I'm with you. It's on the weaker half as far as like charting them. It would be on the weaker half of the album. But yeah, the pacing here is tough. I love the opening riff of the song. The opening riff. I love the opening riff of this song, but this one, it's in the wrong spot to start, and it just doesn't really take off. It's written well too. She writes awesome songs as far as lyrically, but this one's just it ain't my fave.
Yeah. That's what it is. But yeah, penultimate track. We're now technically at the last track of the album, which is Wake Up. And basically it's her telling someone to wake up and face reality, which I think is a good message. This is the one here. This is the gun to the head for me. It just has I think this song has the potential to be a lot more than it is. My problem with it is it just stays in the same place musically the whole time, and I don't want that in an album closer. I prefer something a bit more with more layers to it, and I feel like lyrically, this song does have layers. Like I can envision a build up. Like I feel like the ending should be a lot more cathartic than it actually is, and it's just not here. I think it's a kind of a weak closer, sadly. And it's frustrating because I feel like it could have been a lot better.
It's frustrating because it's at the end of this awesome album, and they shit the bed, as in my opinion, as far as closing this. Like, I'm gonna get it away because you already said it lyrically. This song, and I've said it almost for the last couple, but for a bunch of them, lyrically airtight, really well done. I can see this as a powerful piece just reading it. It has a really cool message inside of it. Like, don't let the same stuff keep happening to you. Wake up, it's not going to come around unless you take it, kind of thing. Put that aside. I'm going to yell a little bit here. Who in the hell let this album finish like this? I'm sorry. It has the same exact beat as You Oughta Know.
Yeah.
So how in the hell are you going to recycle I flipped back and forth like 20 times and was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, how are you going to put another powerful song on the same beat as You Oughta Know and finish the album off with it? You want to talk about pet peeves or peeves period? This one is up there for me. I haven't felt this pissed off for an album closer in a long time critically. I don't really remember this one from back in the day. I'm going to say right now, after Ironic, this sort of fell off for me as far as, listening to the CD or the album as a whole. But this one critically is like, who in the hell? It's like between the two of them, they did such a killer job this whole album, writing songs, even with Flea and Navarro having to do their thing on You Oughta Know. And then we get here and we sort of run out of ideas musically. Like, she almost had like too many songs written, in my opinion. This all I can take from is like, you guys just recycled another song on this album. It makes me so mad. It really does. Terrible way to end this awesome album.
I know. I mean, I guess Wake Up just kind of makes you want to fall asleep again.
For real.
That's the best I can do for this. Does not encourage me to wake up. Sorry, Alanis. We were doing yeah. However, we are in the era of hidden tracks.
The old era.
And so the CD of this, it ends with a remix of You Oughta Know. But after that, we get our hidden track, which is called Your House. And it's not so much a song as it is just a poem, an a cappella poem that she sings about her going to her ex's house because she misses him. And it's quite literal. She just wants forgiveness. And, would you forgive me, love? That's the refrain of this. I mean, does it fit this album at all? No. That's why it's a hidden track. But I think it's beautiful to listen to. I think it's quite a stunning piece. How literal it is, that I don't know, but it's definitely something you can really imagine what's going on and feel the pain inside this story. And I think it's just perfectly done for what it is. And I'm so glad that it really does. I have to mention, because it really actually does end the album on a much better note than Wake Up does. Yeah. And for that, I'm grateful, and easily the best hidden track we've covered on this show. Easily. But I'm just glad it's the actual album closer, most of all.
Yeah, I heard that. It's so funny. I think it was off podcast, but you were like, this is one of the best hidden tracks. It really is. This is what a hidden track should be. This is the cool ones. The ones that make you wait, even still on Spotify, for like a good 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not a separate track on Spotify, but
it's really, and it's a neat one. It's one that it's so well done, even just as a bonus song, that I always fantasize of it getting a full, I don't know if it ever did, but a full production behind it, because it's a really cool song. It's a really neat thought. It's a really cool, quick encounter with herself inside of possibly breaking and entering charge. But you know, it's a neat one. And silver lining, thank you for bringing happiness back to my heart, because I'll take that as that true closer to this album over Wake Up any day.
Yes, and there isn't a video for it, but I have seen that. I can't help myself. I have looked at her set lists recently just because I want to kind of know what to expect. Your House has made live appearances frequently this year.
You think she's doing it a cappella?
I have no idea. I'm not going to look it up. I just want to hear it. But
yeah, me too.
I'm really excited. I really hope she does this in Ocean's Calling. That is for sure. And it sounds like there's a good chance that she will. So I'm very excited about that. But also, off note, anybody who can get this message to Alanis Morissette, I haven't seen Hands Clean on all of your set lists. It's not on this album, but please include that one too. But end of that. Back to this. So, yes, Jagged Little Pill. A Jagged Little Pill. That's a beautiful album, though.
Yeah, really well done.
Yeah, I think we both are on the same page grading wise for this, but I will ask, what's your grade?
Oh, Alanis Jagged Little Pill, front to back, iconic album. We've really went through all of my feelings on this album, but to surmise it, I'll use that word authentic again. There's authenticity inside of this whole thing, and it's coming from an artist who set out to do that and did it 10 times better than anybody thought she would ever. It was really, really awesome. Even with some missteps and some nitpicking here, there is really no fault inside of this album, other than the Wake Up. Don't get me wrong, I'll never forgive them for that, but that one still doesn't take me outside of this album to really ever have anything other than that to be mad about. This is the easiest Jagged Little Pill I've ever had to swallow. Yes. And for that, I give it an A.
Yeah, this is an easy A for me, for sure. I knew going in this is actually one of the albums that is as beloved as it deserves to be. This deserves all of the success and acclaim that it got. It's weird. It was on the updated Rolling Stone list of the 500 greatest albums. This one was number 69.
Wow.
And somehow I still thought, it still seems a little low.
Yeah, that does seem low. Out of wait a minute, you said out of 1,000?
Out of 500.
Oh, out of 500. That's super low.
It still seems a little low.
I thought it was 45 on the 100, but maybe it's from that year.
No, that's a separate list, but this newest list said it was out of that. I'm like, okay, because I remember actually looking through this list and thinking, okay, Jagged Little Pill better be high on this list because I haven't seen it yet. And there it was, and I was so happy to see it, but I was like, I still think it's a bit low.
It was in the Wine Dine 69 spot?
Yeah, that's kind of perfect, though, actually. I didn't think of that. But I was a little shocked. I felt, it's pretty high praise. It was in the top 100 of this huge list. I still think it should have been higher. But what are you gonna do? And I really, really cannot wait to hear these songs live, finally.
If you had to go off this album, what's your most anticipated song off this album to hear?
To hear live.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's my favorite track. That's a different one. But You Oughta Know live has got to be an experience. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I agree there. That's gonna be a wild one. It's gonna be a wild one. It's tough to pick off this album, but I definitely have to say that's gonna be a cool one.
Yeah.
You learn might be super cool with a bunch of people too.
Ironic will be too, actually.
Oh, yeah. Ironic will be fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a banger.
Yeah, but of it all though, maybe not the one you're most excited to hear live, but what is your favorite track. You have to remember to do those.
No, that's true. That's true. We're breaking the curse here. My favorite track on this album for me has to be "You Oughta Know." I can't get around that. And I don't try, but I don't necessarily gravitate towards the most popular song on the album, but that song is undeniable. It always has been. It always will be.
That's what it is. But I am going to go a bit against the grain and not pick the obvious choice. Actually, my favorite's "Hand in My Pocket."
It's a good one, man. It's a good one. This
that's the one I just always go back to every time. Every time. Oh man, can't wait for this one. This is my most anticipated set of this festival for sure. There's a lot going on, but I haven't seen her before, so that's a big part of why I'm so excited to see this too. Yep. So for those who don't know, we are kind of doing this by day of the festival. So Alanis Morissette will be there on day one of the festival. So that's why we're doing this one first. But on day two, the day two pick is another anticipated one for you. And
it is.
So please tell us what we will be doing next week.
Day two. Seen him a bunch. With his boys, without his boys, with different boys, with Grateful Dead boys, but we're gonna take a second stab at the one and only John Mayer, except this time not on such an experimental run as he was with the John Mayer trio. This time we're gonna go and check out an album that he did called Continuum.
All right, we did talk a bit about those songs in their live form on the John Mayer trio, but now we'll get to talk about them in their finalized form, which is very exciting, I think, too. So I'm excited to do that, in addition to the other songs on the album, of course.
Of course. The good old John Mayer. We're back in it with my boy Johnny May.
Yes, that is your man. That is for sure. All righty. Yep, so there we go. Continuum. And you know what? We're all still waiting on the world to change. And maybe we won't be able to, but at least we'll still be back here. You can depend on us. So looking forward to it, guys. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.
Peace.